everyone, my name is Maria and I'm the tech support specialist here at Thor 3D. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. So today we will be showcasing the Calibry Mini. So if you are familiar with, we also have a regular Calibry that looks the same shape and size, but this one is intended for smaller objects, anywhere from 2 centimeters to 30 centimeters. So this is great for small objects, like for example this statue, which I will be scanning today. Small body parts like the human face, ears, fingers, those sorts of things. So there are 2 cameras and a projector on the front. And there is a 5-meter long cord, so you can easily walk around any object to kind of get all of the angles. There's also a very handy touchscreen, so that you're always seeing what the scanner is seeing, and you don't have to keep looking at your laptop or computer. So this is currently connected to my laptop with a USB 3 port. So with your Calibry kit, you get the scanner and also this calibration board. So we recommend that you do calibrate before every scan for the most optimal results. I calibrated it this morning and I have been using it all day, and since it has been in the same room, I haven't had to calibrate it again. If you are traveling a lot with the scanner, the lenses can shift a little bit, so we do recommend that you bring the calibration board with you and calibrate before you begin. So I'm going to switch over so that you can see the scanner screen. Okay, so here we have the little statue that I will be scanning shortly. It is on this orange turntable. You don't have to use a turntable, it just makes life easier to be able to scan an object from all sides. We do sell this table as well, so please check that link on our website and contact your Calibry distributor. So I will be making 2 scans of this object, so one around from the top, and then I will be turning it to the side and then scanning it here so that we will have all sides of the statue, and then I will be combining or merging those 2 scans in our software, and I will explain and show you how to do that. First of all, let's look at our scanner. So this is the preview mode, and here we can change all of our settings before we begin scanning. So because there are a lot of geometrical features on this little statue, I will be using what is called geometry tracking. This is also very good for human faces where there are a lot of features like eyes, the nose, and the lips. If, for example, we have an object that has more of a flatter surface that doesn't have much geometry, you can cover it in these small blue markers that come with your Calibry kit. So an object like this that is quite flat with no particular distinct features, you can attach these little blue markers and then you can scan it more easily. So that is possible in our marker tracking mode. So right now I don't have markers on this object. And finally we have the texture tracking mode, and we can use it for flat things. For example, like this very colorful painting behind me. This would be perfect for texture tracking, as there aren't many geometric features, but we do need to capture all of those beautiful colors. So before scanning, you can also change the frequency of texture frames. So this is how many texture frames or photos, basically, of the exact colors of our object the scanner will be capturing. So the default right now is it will capture every 20 frames of texture. I want a really bright and colorful texture model that I will be applying on my mesh. And so I'm going to set it to a bit of a higher frequency, every 10 frames or every 5 frames. If, for example, I just need the mesh model of my object and I don't require any colors or textures to be applied on top of it, then I can always choose this slider to 0, and then the model itself will weigh less. So let's set that to 10. So here at the top you also have two settings. So the flash, right now it's at its highest, so that is just how bright the scanner is projecting the mesh. And you can turn off the flash will be turned off automatically if you, for example, do not need any texture. Now the drop here, it is depending on the color of your object. So if you're scanning something with lots of light, bright colors, you would switch it to light. If you're scanning a darker object, press this select the dark. For our object, as it is kind of not particularly dark or light, I just put this setting in the middle. So before I start scanning, I always turn on this feature, which is called Live 3D, and that allows us to see in real time on our touch screen the parts of the object which we have already scanned, so that we know which parts to kind of turn the scanner and to capture those other features of the object. So I am satisfied with the settings as I have here. I'm going to go ahead and approach my object, and you can see some colors popping up. So this is the color map that shows us the optimal distance between the scanner and our object. So green is the best distance. As you can see, the scanner is quite close to the object because it is the Calibry Mini, so its field of view is smaller. If you have a regular Calibry, you would be familiar that you hold the scanner much further away from an object, as the regular Calibry is intended for larger objects. So if you are holding the scanner too close to the object, you will see it starts to turn orange-red, and that means it's too close and the tracking can be lost. And the same if you pull the scanner back too far, it will become blue-purple, and that means it is a bit too far away and you could also lose tracking. So I'm happy with all of my settings, and I can go ahead and press Start or the play button on this scanner. As you are scanning, make sure to kind of turn the scanner so that the mesh projects into every nook and cranny of your object. You can see in the very top center there's a counter that is currently going. That is the total amount of frames that the scanner has captured. I usually try to make every scan to be close to at least 2,000 frames, depending on the object. This is quite small, so usually 2,000 is enough. If this was a bit larger object, I would try to aim for 3,000 frames or more, as then you would have more data to be able to work with. You can make less frames if you need, if it's a smaller object, but then there will be a lot less data to process, and that may cause some issues in the post-processing. So I'm pretty happy with this. We have gotten most of the features here. I will go ahead and stop. Now here you actually see a list of scans, and it is a mix of Calibry and Calibry Mini, and that is because all of the scans are stored in the hard drive of my computer. So I've had multiple scanners connected to this laptop, Calibry Mini and different Calibris. So that is the list reflected here. So nothing is stored in the scanner itself. So these, all of the scans that are on your hard drive, you can easily copy them and move them to a different laptop or different computer for post-processing there if that computer or laptop has a bit higher specs. So let me go ahead and turn our model and scan it from the other side. I don't need to change the settings as the settings remain the same, and I repeat the process. Generally, the best setting setup for scanning is you don't want a lot of direct sunlight. So, for example, the bright overhead office lights, I have them turned off. There is some sunshine coming in through the window, but no direct sunlight, so there is no light interfering with the object. I usually try to scan in the evening, that way that I know that there won't be any interference with the scanner. Alright, that looks pretty good. So at the very top we have the last two scans that I performed. I can go ahead and tap it on the touchpad here and click to open. Okay, so here is one of our scans. Let's go ahead and open the other one. So here we have our two scans here. Let's look at kind of the frames. So you can see we got quite a lot of information. There are some holes here, and we will make sure to close them off as we will be combining two scans, so the data will help us out here. So before I do anything, I go to the settings here, which is this wheel at the top, and I make sure that it is set to Calibry Mini. Okay. The lowest resolution we recommend for the Calibry Mini is 0.15. You can always increase it to 0.3 or 0.4 depending on your needs, but anything lower than 0.5 you won't get the best results. So I'm going to increase it to 0.3 just to make processing before we align it a bit easier. The registration algorithm, which is this first one here, and preliminary cleaning, that removes all of the noise that you are seeing here around the model. So the algorithm will clean all of that up for us. And the finalization stage, so this section, will create our actual mesh. I won't be simplifying it just yet because I usually do that prior to applying the texture or the colors. So I'm happy with the settings. You can also always create your own custom settings with your own custom name, and you can change these to fit your needs. I'm going to go ahead and look at this button, this next button here. It's this play button, and if I hold it down, we can run registration finalization kind of separately and see what they do. I'm just going to press play and they will run one after another. At the bottom you're seeing this green bar which shows us how much we have left of processing the mesh. If I open up this tab in the corner here that's called memory, I can actually see how much of my computer's RAM Calibry Nest is taking up. So a few factors, depending on the size of your object. For example, if it's 2000 frames or less, then the processing will be a lot faster. If we increase the resolution in our settings, it will also go faster. And if you have a fast computer, it will definitely help in processing your scans faster. The minimum requirements are listed on our website, and they are also in the links below this video. So we suggest at least 16 gigs of RAM, but if you have a more powerful PC or laptop, that would be even better. While this is processing, let me just show you that in the settings under the interface tab, here you can customize Nest to fit your own colors. For example, if you don't like the default kind of green and blue combination, you can change these colors to whatever you want. If you are a fan of darker applications, we also have that available. So that can all be changed in our settings. Okay, we have a really good question from our YouTube chat. Is the registration process multi-threaded? Oh, okay. We have another user who answered, so thank you. Also, all of the technical specifications of the scanner are also included in the links underneath this video. Okay, so this is our first scan. Let's run the same algorithm for our second scan. Since this is quite a small model, the finalization is taking only a couple of minutes. If this was a larger model with a higher resolution, then this would take a bit longer. As I said previously, all the scans that you see on the left-hand side are stored on your hard drive. Right now it is the default folder. You can always, if you are not sure where your scans are, you can open up any of these once the algorithm finishes. Be faster. Very good question. Would the scanning process be faster using markers, or the post-processing would be faster using markers? Because the processing would be exactly the same. So if we open up any of our scans, you can see here all of the kind of settings we chose before starting scanning. And if you go to Open in Folder here, it will open up the folder where all of your scans are on the hard drive. Alright, so before okay, so as you can see, each result kind of generated kind of a funny funny name we have in the algorithm. You can always double click and change this to any name you want if you don't like what our algorithm generates. Let's call them statue 1 and 2 for simplicity. Okay, so we have our two results, and now we can select them both and combine them or merge them. Okay. So because I scanned this statue in geometry, I now have to align it also by geometry. And that means I have to find at least 3 common points between our two scans here so that the algorithm can combine them. Let me choose one here and here. And here. I usually try to space them out quite a bit so that there's more information for the alignment. If I don't like where I placed a point, I can always just go back, double click, and it will be removed. This is our preliminary model here, and it looks pretty good. You can always add more points. You can add 4, 5, 10 points if you want to be even clearer and crisper, but looking at our preliminary model, looks like it will come together quite nicely. So I'm happy with how this looks. I'm going to go ahead and add it to base. If, for example, I made, let's say, not 2, but I made, I don't know, 5, 10 scans, you can easily align them using the same method. They will all be in this list, and you will just be attaching them one by one. Okay, so this is still our preliminary model. Now we definitely want to remove this pesky turntable that we had. And I'm going to go back to the frames and remove this before we make the finalized mesh, so then we have a nice clean object. So I can do that either using the polygon lasso, which draws kind of shapes to remove, and I just hit delete. I can also use my marquee brush and just kind of run through and erase any bits that I don't need. And just trim that a little bit off. Okay, and I will do the same for the other scan. Okay, let me go ahead and select them both. I already removed the table, so this is just how it looked on the finalized results. Because we cut the table off on our frames, the table will not be included in our result. So now next to the registration finalization buttons, we now have another little play button, and that's the multiple registration and finalization. So that will help us combine our meshes. You can run both registration and finalization. Registration just cleans it up a bit more. If, for example, there was still, after registration finalization of each result, we see that there's still kind of some junk floating around, we can run that multiple registration algorithm again. Since the results came out quite crisp and clear and they look pretty nice, I will actually go ahead and just run finalization to combine them. So I'm only just combining these two. This could take a couple of minutes if, of course, you are combining, I don't know, 3, 5, 10 scans. It can do that, but it would take substantially longer. Let me look at my chat here. Regarding registration in GeoMagick, I'm not that familiar with GeoMagick myself. We generally, in order to transfer any of your scan data to third-party software like GeoMagick, you would have to register and finalize your result, like we did here, and then you can click Save As, and then save it as an OBJ, WRL, PLY, or STL, and then that result can then be transferred to the third-party software. Great question about 3D mice. We are working on an update that will be able to integrate 3D mice. Hopefully it will be included in the next update. All of those patch notes will be kind of announced and posted when they come. Unfortunately, at the moment, you cannot export the point cloud itself, as each of these scans that are on your hard drive, they are in the Calibry specific format, which is .ascan files. So unless you have another program that specifically opens .ascan files, it would be quite difficult. Okay. So here's our finalized result that merged the two meshes. Looks like, okay, we got the feed, looks pretty good. Now, there are some holes where I kind of didn't point the scanner, where I missed, and these we can patch up using this in the middle, the Fill Selection Holes tool. And we can either select all holes from the list, and they're usually graded from largest to smallest, or we can just select them directly on the model. So here and here. Okay. And I click OK, and the algorithm will fill those in for us. Okay. If you want to look at kind of how good the mesh is, you can always switch from shaded to wireframe. And we can zoom in and take a look at the quality of our mesh and how nice and tight our triangles look. So I ran this result at 0.3 and kind of medium sharpness to be a little faster. You can still see like a lot of the features on this statue, the hands, the feet, the crown, all look pretty good. You can always run finalization several times for your results to tweak the resolution and see the difference. Here are two results that I created before. So this was run at 0.3 with kind of higher sharpness, and you can still see a lot of the features, but it's smoother in places. And then this result I ran at a higher resolution. This was made in 0.2, and I increased the sharpness all the way to the highest. And the features are very crisp and clear, but you are seeing kind of more of the interference, kind of roughness on the model. So you can actually use the smoothing tool directly and kind of smoothing in any parts of the mesh that look a little rough. Or in my case, I just ran it at a slightly lower resolution here and decreased the sharpness so that it's a bit smoother. Going back to our merged combined result, now I can go ahead and apply the texture, which is the exact colors that we see on our statue. So if you remember, before I started scanning, I wanted to kind of set how many texture frames will be gathered with each scan. If I go back to the frames in each scan and I open up the frames, you can see every 9th frame, as I selected, is the texture frame, which is the scanner basically taking a photo of the object. So these are the frames with this pink box that the algorithm will be using to make our texture or color model. So if, for example, you do not need a texture model and you selected 0 texture frames before you started scanning, you will not be seeing any of these texture frames in the list at all. So now looking at the next button after our registration finalization buttons, we have this kind of black and white beach ball. Says texturing. You can either press that or press the F6 hotkey. Now, depending on how good the quality of the texture, how good the colors, how accurate the colors you want, you could choose not to simplify it. Then it will be more kind of true to life colors, but then the algorithm will take a bit longer to generate that result. Today I will just be simplifying it and then be able to tweak the colors a little later just to make this go a little faster. While that's going, let me mention some of the other tools that we have on the side here. This is the magic wand. For example, if there's some specific sections you want to select to remove, this is a very helpful tool. Also, underneath the smoothing brush, you can always simplify the model. You can filter any other kind of junk that may be floating around. You can also remesh it if you feel that the mesh is a bit uneven. We also have this ruler tool, which allows us to kind of measure the mesh and make sure that it's accurate and true to life. Okay, here is our texture model. Just go back. Okay. Someone asked about brush size. If I select, for example, a tool, I can use the middle scroller wheel of my mouse to change the size of the brush. So that is what allows me to do that. Okay, very good question. If it's possible to merge two scans that don't have any kind of overlapping geometry, and unfortunately the algorithm just won't understand that for example, this side has to be connected to this side kind of through the middle. So the algorithm doesn't instinctively know, for example, if like this is this side of your hand and this is the other side of your hand. Like, unless you tell it specifically where it should connect of some points that are overlapping, it just won't understand what you're trying to do. So that's why when you scan, we do always want to make sure that you have some sections overlapping to be able to then combine them. Yes, very good question. If, for example, we scanned an object using markers, and then we had two or more scans that we combined with markers, then the algorithm will combine those markers for us, and we don't have to use common points of geometry. Coming back to this object, for example, if I scanned let's say this side, okay, in markers, and then I can scan another section in markers, it will combine them, but again, there would have to be some common points of like some common points that they share. So for example, if I just have this side and this side, there are no common kind of markers in between them for the algorithm to kind of understand and how to connect them. So you would still need kind of some overlap between them for it to be able to be like, there's the same markers here and the same markers here, then it will combine them together and not create some abstract painting instead. Okay, so here we have our two models now. We have the mesh model, which we can now save in kind of different formats, the OBJ, WRL, PLY, STL, which can then be exported into any other software. And likewise, we can do that with our texture model and save that and export that as well. Now, now that I have the texture result, I have some tools that have popped up, and if we don't really like the colors, we can always kind of just tweak that. The brightness, the contrast, all of that can be changed. You can see it does look quite good. You can see all of the different kind of shades of brown and kind of the shadows on it. You can see all of the fingers and the toes. So it's quite a good model. If anyone has any more questions, please write them in the YouTube chat, and I'll be happy to answer them. So if you ever have any issues or problems with the scanner or with the software, you are welcome to write to the support email, so support at thor3dscanner.com, and me and my colleagues will happily answer any of your questions. If you have any questions about price or distributors, please send those to info@thor3dscanner.com. Going back to the software for a moment. Okay. If I drop down help here, I can either click F1 or select manual, and that will open up in your default browser the manual, and you can read all about the different kind of features that I discussed today. And in the links also below the video where there is the download center, so there you can find a link to download our software and also a link to the manual there. Okay, very good question about the cable. So to kind of show you the entire construction here. So this is the USB cable that plugs directly into the PC or the laptop, and it's about 1 meter long to where it goes to the splitter, which kind of combines all of our cords together. And then is the 5 meter long blue cord that is connected to the scanner. So in total you have about 6 meter distance. Very good question about connecting cables. Generally there's no specific order, just one tip. I usually first plug in the USB cord into the laptop, and then the last step is I connect the power. So this goes to the actual socket. So this I usually try to connect as the very last step. The connection order and also a picture, it's also in our manual. Also in the links below you can see a gallery of different 3D models that we have made with the Calibry and the Calibry Mini. So those are included. You can take a look at those. We are working on adding new 3D models every day. And you can also read our case studies on our website and different applications that have used our scanners in different industries. Very good question. So the blue cable currently is 5 meters long. Our developers kind of understood that you can't make a cord any longer than that, as that could create too much interference for the scanner, and the scanner won't be working optimally. You mean the regarding the box? So for the Calibry Mini, we just kind of upgraded the splitter base, so they are kind of square. So we made some tweaks when we released the Calibry Mini. Some of the older Calibris will have a slightly different box that is rectangular. So we just kind of improved on the whole connection construction when we made the Mini. And definitely a good tip from the chat, definitely disconnect the power supply first. Again, thank you everyone for your time. I hope this was insightful. So please, again, feel free to send an email to support or to any of your distributors, and we will be happy to answer all of your questions. So, thank you, and have a nice day, everyone.